So many of you may not know much about Autodesk. Let me just say, here's what our vision statement is. We build software tools to help people imagine, design, and create a better world. We don't have control of the final product. However, by working with companies across the globe, we get insights into how these things are built, how they're conceived, and we get a fairly good idea of what the trends and motivations are of the people out there, of all the companies, both large and small. I just wanted to quickly cover what I thought were 3 important trends in terms of how people are building things, how people are making things, the huge impact it has on the environment. This is the idea, one, of complexity and how much more difficult it is to do. The second one is this idea of experience and access instead of product ownership. And the third one is infinite computing and how we can turn these into a more sustainable and better future. And one of the things that I see across all the companies we deal with is the one thing they all say is we're dealing with this issue of complexity. There's nobody I go to who says, you know what, my job is easier today than it was yesterday. It just, and so despite all the promises, whether they come from IT, whether they come from consultants, everybody I talk to in business says the world that I'm dealing is moving more quickly and is more complex. And things, and it's the usual things, getting products to market more quickly. It's about global competition. It's about the uncertain economy and how do we plan in that. What do we do to be more innovative? How do we respond to environmental challenges? Everybody says the web of issues that they're dealing with is more complex than it's ever been. And this is true across all the industries that we serve. Now, the second thing I want to think about is a trend that I've been seeing that I think is an important one, and I think it's changing how we go about using things. And it's about this idea of access and experience. So in some ways, I love this slide, but it's kind of a bittersweet slide. The image there, it's kind of too bad that we can't support a chain of bookstores and independent booksellers as well. But it's so poignant in that it really captures how I think the world is changing. So there you see a store closing sign. As everyone knows, Borders just went out of business. And right above it, what it says is they sell books, music, and movies. So why did they go out of business? Did we suddenly stop wanting books and music and movies? And of course the answer is, of course we didn't stop that. What happened was Borders didn't respond to what we really wanted. What we really wanted is we now get our content, whether it's a book, a magazine, or a newspaper, we get that information in a different way than we ever got it before. We still want the content. We didn't really need to own the book. We wanted the story, not the book. And as you look and you watch as companies are changing, this is not only going from the digital world, so we're leaving the world, all of these things that are happening in the world of bytes are actually starting to happen in the world of atoms. Tech Shop is it's a gym membership for people who want to make things. So it's a new company that just started. It's about $100 a month. You get access to the most sophisticated manufacturing equipment. So computer numerically controlled water jets, plasma cutters, 3D printers are all available for $100 a month. So what the people who join want is access to the equipment. What they don't need is expensive, hard to maintain equipment of their own. Now the third thing I wanted to talk about this morning, the third trend, is this trend that I call infinite computing. And it's an interesting idea. Now for most of my life, we've treated computing as though it was a precious resource, as though it was scarce. But it turns out that's becoming less true every day. Turns out that the computer that we're carrying, we like to call it a phone, but it's actually a computer, that we're carrying around in our pockets has about 10,000 times more processing power. So the idea that's in my mind is, what can we do to harness this infinite amount of computing? What can we do with it to help solve some of the problems that we have? How many people remember this game of Battleship? Okay, You're the old people. Now, how many young people are out there? Okay. There's probably like an iPhone app that you can play Battleship with too. That's how the young guys know about it. I often think of this process of design and engineering as being one like Battleship. And so you think of your companies and think of design and engineering and manufacturing. What often happens is somebody comes up with an idea and they say, B6. And somewhere further down the chain says, miss. And so you go back to the drawing table and you come up with another idea. And you go F7. And somewhere in the place goes, miss. And you do that over and over again until you run out of time or patience or money or you find a good enough compromise. But the idea behind infinite computing is, how can we do this in a way that we can combine this idea of this incredibly cheap asset that's able to solve engineering problems with the problems we're facing? How do we solve this thing at Battleship? And one of the ideas is we can start looking for more of the answers. We can use the computer not just to sit there and wait for us to tell it to do something, which is what our computers do all the time. They just sit there pretty dumbly and wait for us to tell it for something to do. We can say, for example, on that Battleship board, look at all the places on the board. Tell us where the answer is, instead of us going through this game and being kind of the sucker and going, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Let's finally get to the point where we go the other way and we can have the computer actually help us solve the problems. So what we've looked at is, I see these trends coming, and what I'm interested in is how can we put the service of this technology and design software and combine it with the needs and desires of our customers in order to make a better world.
But as you look at the world, as you look 5, 10, 20 years in the future, are you an optimist?
It's kind of funny. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more optimistic. And if I know most people start the other way around, so it's kind of backwards. But I've gotten more optimistic over time. What I see right now is I'm incredibly encouraged by what I see going on, particularly with young people, and motivation around doing something and building a better world. I'm incredibly encouraged by what I see in terms of entrepreneurs who are creating new ideas, new businesses, more sustainable technology, clean technology, and the passion they have for it.
Taking that idea and the idea of increased data, increased partnership, how does Autodesk think about partnership, call it both downstream with information providers or groups that will have opinions on recyclability or will have opinions on, call it the ego loading of a particular material, as well as upstream into your customer base, and how does that dialogue work?
Yeah, so what we do, so let me start with the customer side. I mean, what we've seen is just an increased focus from all of our customers on the need for more sustainable design. And it's broadening. It's going beyond, simple architecture, engineering, construction into a much broader realm. Yesterday I was with a large consumer products company, apparel and footwear and stuff, and the entire conversation, interestingly, had sustainable design integrated into it. And as a matter of fact, the CEO at one point said to this global leadership team, "We won't be showing you anything that is not sustainable. It's become core to what we do, and so it's going to be in everything we do. It's not going to be, a particular feature." So what we've seen and try to respond to is try to understand what our customers are really trying to do. And a lot has to do with material selection, as we saw. A lot has to do with this optimization kind of problems between things like strength and weight. So we've worked a lot on that side with customers and understanding where they're trying to go. And it's, this combination of, I always find our job to be something between, it's this interesting dance between leading and following.